One night, I came home earlier than expected and found my girlfriend sitting at our table with another man, laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with me in years. That was the night everything I thought I knew about my life shattered. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to share a story like this. But sometimes silence becomes impossible, because the weight of carrying the truth alone eats you alive from the inside out. We had been together for almost 4 years. For years that I thought were building towards something permanent. A life together, a future, maybe even a family one day. I wasn't perfect. I had my flaws, my mistakes, but I always tried to be there to support her, to put her above myself. I believed that relationships were about endurance, about surviving rough patches, about choosing each other again and again even when things were hard. But what I didn't realize was that she wasn't choosing me anymore. Maybe she hadn't been for a long time. It started small. That's how these things always do, right? At first, it was the late nights. She told me she had more work, that her boss had piled extra projects on her, that she couldn't leave early because deadlines were tight. And of course, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? That's what trust is supposed to be, giving someone the benefit of the doubt. But soon the excuses became more frequent. Meetings that ran over, drinks with colleagues, nights where she claimed she was too tired to talk, too drained to even sit on the couch beside me. Then came the smells. Perfume that wasn't hers. A trace of cologne on her jacket after she'd been with her friends. The faint scent of cigarettes, though neither of us smoked. I asked her once, gently, casually, trying not to sound accusatory, "Did you pick up someone else's perfume by accident?" She snapped. She glared at me like I'd crossed a line, like I was insane for even noticing. "Are you trying to control me? Do you have nothing better to do than sniff me like some jealous teenager?" And I remember apologizing for noticing, apologizing for caring. That was a pattern. Every time I tried to raise concern, I ended up being the one to say sorry. She was clever like that. She could flip the entire script in seconds. One minute I was trying to understand, the next I was groveling for forgiveness I didn't owe, and each time I convinced myself I was a problem, that if I were more confident, more trusting, more something, she wouldn't act so distant. But deep down I knew something was wrong. She started guarding her phone like it was a loaded gun. She would take it into the bathroom with her, hide the screen when I walked into the room, laugh at messages, and then lock it instantly the second I glanced her way. And every time when I asked who it was, she'd sigh and roll her eyes. "Why do you always need to know everything? Can I have friends? Or, do you think you're the only person in my life?" And again, I backed down. Again, I told myself I was overthinking. But here's the truth. You don't need evidence when your gut already knows. And my gut knew. That night, it all came crashing down. I wasn't supposed to be home early. I had a meeting across town, but the client canceled last minute. I remember walking to the front door, tired but a little relieved, thinking maybe I'd surprise her. Maybe we'd actually have a quiet evening together for once. But the second I stepped inside, I heard it. Laughter. Her laughter. But not the tired, forced laugh she gave me when I tried to lighten the mood. No, this was different. It was full, genuine, bubbling out of her like I hadn't heard in years. And it froze me in place, because that sound used to belong to me. I followed it to the kitchen, and what I saw will never leave me. She was sitting at our table. The table we had chosen together when we first moved in. The one we ate dinners at. The one where we had argued and made up and dreamed about our future. And across from her sat a man I had never seen before. He was leaning back in his chair, glass of wine in hand, smiling with an ease that made me feel like a stranger in my own home. On the table were fruits, cheese, a bottle of wine open between them. And, God help me, a lit candle flickering between their faces. It was intimate, not two friends catching up, not colleagues after work. It was something else. And she was glowing. She leaned forward when he spoke, touched her hair the way she used to when she wanted me to notice her. She laughed at his jokes, her eyes sparkling in a way they hadn't when looking at me in a very long time. It was like watching a different woman, a version of her that I hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. And in that moment, I realized that whatever warmth she once had for me, She had transferred it entirely to him. I stood frozen in the doorway, my keys still in my hand. She looked up, saw me, and for the briefest second, I waited for her to gasp, to panic, to stammer an explanation. But no, she didn't flinch. She didn't hide. She didn't even look guilty. She just met my eyes, raised her glass slightly, took a slow sip of wine, and said, "You're home early." That was it. No shame, no fear, no denial. Just cold acknowledgement. And that was the exact moment I understood. I was no longer part of her world. I was an intruder in my own life. For a few seconds, I didn't move. My mind was scrambling to catch up with what my eyes were showing me. I must have looked ridiculous, standing there in the doorway with my keys still dangling from my hand, like someone who'd walked into the wrong house by mistake. But this was my house, my apartment, my life, and yet I felt like the intruder. She didn't blink, didn't stutter, didn't even try to mask what was happening. She simply leaned back in her chair, tilted her head slightly, and repeated with that same detached tone, "You weren't supposed to be here yet." Not a single word of apology, not a trace of panic. Finally, my voice broke through the fog inside my head. "Who is this?" My words sounded weak, pathetic even. I wanted them to carry strength, anger, something. But instead, they slipped out fragile, like I was already defeated. The man across from her turned his head and looked at me for the first time. He didn't flinch either. He didn't rush to explain, didn't look embarrassed or defensive. No, he looked at me calmly, with an almost bored expression, as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience. He set his glass down gently, leaned back, and crossed his arms. There was something in the way he did it, slow, deliberate, that screamed confidence, ownership. He wasn't worried about being caught, because in his mind, there was nothing to be caught for. And that's when it hit me. He didn't think he was intruding. He thought I was. I turned back to her. "Seriously, what is this?" My voice cracked. I hated how desperate I sounded, how much I was already begging for answers instead of demanding them. She raised an eyebrow, the faintest smirk tugging the corner of her lips, and said, "It's just dinner. Don't make it more dramatic than it is." Just dinner. Those words sliced through me like a blade, because everything about the scene screamed intimacy. The wine, the candle, the way she leaned toward him, the laughter I'd overheard before I walked in. But to her, it was nothing, or maybe worse. To her, it was something, but she wanted to belittle me by calling it nothing. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug into my palms. Dinner? With a stranger? In our home? Without even telling me? She let out a soft, almost amused laugh, and it stung more than if she'd screamed. "You act like this place is only yours. I live here, too. I can have friends over if I want." Friends. That word echoed in my head, bouncing around with cruel, mocking tone. I looked at the man again. He wasn't flustered. He wasn't shifting uncomfortably like someone wrongly accused. He was calm, collected, radiating smugness. And I swear I could see it in his eyes. He enjoyed this. He enjoyed watching me unravel while he sat in the chair I paid for, drinking the wine I bought, stealing the woman I thought was mine. Friends don't light candles. I snapped, my voice rising for the first time. Friends don't sit in the dark drinking wine while their boyfriend's out working. Her eyes narrowed. "You're overreacting." That phrase. God, how many times had she used it on me before? Every argument. Every time I tried to point out something wrong, it always ended with me overreacting. It was her favorite weapon. And once again, she swung it like a hammer, tried to crush whatever little confidence I had left. But this time, it didn't silence me. This time, it only made the anger surge hotter. Overreacting. My voice shook, but not from weakness. From fury. "I come home and find you sitting with some guy, laughing like I don't exist, and you tell me I'm overreacting? What the hell is going on here?" For the first time, she hesitated. Just a flicker. But I saw it. Her eyes darted away for half a second, like she was calculating how much to tell me, how much to deny. And then, with an icy calmness, she said, "Nothing's going on. You're imagining things." You've always been paranoid. Paranoid, another one of her favorite words. And that's when the man finally spoke. His voice was deep, steady, dripping with a confidence that made me want to punch him in the face. Maybe you should calm down. She doesn't owe you an explanation for having company. The room went silent after that. His words hung in the air, thick and heavy, like a final nail being hammered into something I didn't want to name yet. Because deep inside, I knew what this was. I knew what I had walked into. But I wasn't ready to face it. Not yet. I wasn't ready to hear her say it out loud. I turned back to her, my voice barely above a whisper now. Tell me it's not what it looks like. Her silence was louder than any scream. She didn't nod. She didn't shake her head. She just looked at me, and that absence of denial was worse than a confession. I felt my knees weaken, my chest tighten, my throat close up. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. And yet, somehow, I stayed standing, staring at her, waiting for something, anything, that could save me from the truth I already knew. But she gave me nothing. For what felt like an eternity, she just stared at me, not with fear, not with guilt, but with this unsettling calmness, as if she were daring me to put the pieces together on my own. My whole body was screaming, my chest tight, hands trembling, but she was composed. And that composure was worse than anything. Say something. I finally managed to whisper. My throat was raw, my voice cracking under the weight of it all. Tell me it's not what it looks like. Her lips parted slightly, and for a second, I thought she'd deny it. I wanted her to deny it. I needed her to throw me some lifeline, no matter how flimsy, something I could cling to in this storm. But instead, she leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and said slowly, almost mockingly, "What exactly does it look like to you?" That question, that deliberate shift. She wasn't going to explain. She wanted me to incriminate myself, to be the one who said out loud first. It was a tactic, and I knew it. But even knowing that didn't make it hurt less. "It looks like you're cheating on me," I spat out, my voice rising. "It looks like I've been killing myself working, waiting, trying to fix things between us while you've been sitting here." I pointed at him, my fingers shaking, with him, laughing, drinking, doing God knows what else. Her eyes narrowed, lips curling into something between a smirk and a sneer. "You always jump to the worst conclusions, don't you?" "Don't do that." I snapped. "Don't twist this around on me. Don't call me paranoid again. I'm standing here in my own apartment, and he's sitting at my table. There's wine, candles, the whole thing. And you're going to tell me this is nothing." She tilted her head like she was bored already. "You're making a scene." "A scene?" My voice broke into a bitter laugh. "This isn't a scene. This is my life falling apart in front of me, and you're acting like I'm the one embarrassing you." And then he spoke again. That voice, calm, condescending, dripping with confidence. "Maybe you should sit down. You're shaking. Look, man, we don't want trouble here. You're obviously upset, but it's not as bad as you think." I turned to him, and I swear, for a moment, I saw red. The way he said we. The way he included himself in this conversation, as if he had any right to. My fists clenched so tight, I thought I'd break my own bones. "You don't get to speak for her," I hissed. "You don't get to tell me what's happening in my home." He didn't flinch. He didn't back down. He just shrugged, took another slow sip of his wine, and said, "Maybe you don't really know what's happening in your home." That line, it knocked the air out of me. I looked back at her, desperate for her to contradict him, to push back, to tell me he was wrong. But she didn't. She just sat there, eyes fixed on me, silent. Finally, I broke. "How long?" I demanded. My voice cracked, my whole body trembling, but I forced the words out. "How long has this been going on?" She exhaled, long and heavy, like I was exhausting her. And then in the calmest voice, she said, "Does it matter?" Those 3 words crushed me more than any confession could have. "Does it matter?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "Of course it matters. I gave you everything. I stood by you when you pushed me away. I waited when you disappeared for days. I believed every excuse because I thought we were building something together. And now you sit here in my face and tell me it doesn't matter?" She finally leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table, her voice sharp now, cutting. What exactly did you give me? Huh? Your endless questions? Your constant need for reassurance? Do you know how exhausting it is to be with someone who clings so hard it feels like I can't breathe? Her words hit me like blows. I staggered back a step, my back pressing against the doorway. Cling? That's what you call it? I was loving you. I was trying to hold us together while you were tearing us apart. She shook her head, almost pitying me. You don't get it. You never did. I don't need someone to hold me together. I don't need saving. I need freedom. And she glanced at the man, her eyes softening in a way I hadn't seen in years. He gives me that. I swear my heart physically cracked in that moment. The way she looked at him. The way her tone changed when she spoke about him. It was like a switch had been flipped. All the tenderness she used to have for me had been redirected, and now it belonged to him, and she wasn't ashamed of it. She wasn't even trying to hide it. I turned to him, my voice raw. What the hell did you do? Did you wait for me to screw up? Did you enjoy slipping in behind my back? He set his glass down, leaned forward, and finally gave me a smile, a cold, knowing smile. I didn't have to do anything. You did all the work for me. The room tilted. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears, my vision blurring. And yet, somehow I stayed standing. You destroyed me, I whispered. She shook her head again, calmly, firmly. No, you destroyed yourself by refusing to see what was right in front of you. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She didn't see herself as a villain in this story. She saw me as a problem. She had rewritten the narrative so thoroughly in her head that I was the clingy, paranoid, suffocating boyfriend, and he was the one who saved her. That realization nearly broke me in two. But I also knew this was just the beginning, because what I had seen tonight, the candle, the laughter, the looks, was only the surface. And if I wanted the truth, the real truth, I would have to dig deeper. I don't even remember how I made it out of that apartment. 1 second, I was standing in the doorway, my chest on fire, her words echoing in my head, his smug smile burning into my brain. The next, I was stumbling down the stairwell, my hand gripping the railing so hard I thought it would snap. The air outside hit me like a wall. Cold, sharp, biting, but it didn't clear my head. Nothing could clear my head. I walked, I don't know how long, through streets that blurred together, past faces that meant nothing, past lights and cars and noise that felt like they were 100 miles away. All I could hear was her voice, replaying over and over, "Does it matter? I need freedom." He gives me that. Every phrase twisted deeper, like barbed wire wrapped around my lungs. By the time I reached my place, I felt hollow. My hands were shaking so badly, I dropped my keys twice before getting the door open. Inside, the silence was unbearable. The couch, the table, the photos on the wall, everything screamed of her, her laughter, her presence, the little traces she had left behind. It felt like she was everywhere and nowhere all at once. I sat on the floor in the dark, my back against the wall, my knees pulled to my chest, and for the first time in years, I felt like I couldn't breathe, not because she was gone, but because of how she had left. Unapologetic, unashamed, rewriting everything I thought I knew about us into something I barely recognized. Hours passed. I don't know how many. The clock ticked somewhere in the distance, but I didn't move. I was frozen in that same position, trapped in a loop of thoughts I couldn't escape. And then my phone buzzed. Her name on the screen. My heart leapt into my throat, and I hated myself for it. After everything, after what I had just seen, part of me still hoped she'd say something that would make it better, something that would explain it away, something to pull me back from the edge. I opened the message. "I hope you got home safe." That was it. No apology, no explanation, just a casual line, as if I had simply left early from a dinner party, not walked in on her with another man. I stared at those words, my chest tightening. Safe? Did she care if I was safe, or was it just her way of keeping the leash taut, reminding me that no matter how angry I was still tethered to her? I didn't reply. Not then. I dropped the phone on the floor and buried my face in my hands. But silence didn't help, because 10 minutes later, It buzzed again. You blew that way out of proportion. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Out of proportion. She had just erased everything I saw, everything I felt, everything she was doing in front of me, with 4 words. It was the same tactic as always. Minimize, deflect, make me the crazy one. And I hated to admit it, but for a split second, it worked. My brain twisted itself into knots. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I should have asked calmly. Maybe I didn't see the whole picture. That's what she did to me. That's what she had always done to me. She didn't just lie. She made me doubt reality itself. I picked up the phone again, my thumbs hovering over the screen. 1,000 replies formed in my head. Anger, accusations, desperate questions. But I typed nothing. I just sat there, trembling, paralyzed between the urge to demand the truth and the terror of what that truth might be. Another buzz. We'll talk tomorrow. Don't make this worse. There was again her control, her calmness. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't scrambling to explain. She was dictating, as if she held all the power, and I was just an emotional child she had to manage. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every creak of the apartment, every flicker of light outside felt like it was mocking me. My chest hurt from the pressure. My eyes burned from the tears I refused to let fall. When the sun finally rose, I was still sitting in the same spot, staring at the wall. My phone buzzed once more. I'll come by after work. Don't do anything stupid. That last line nearly broke me. Don't do anything stupid. Like I was the unstable one. Like I was the danger in this story. Not her. Not him. Me. And maybe the scariest part was a piece of me believed her. The next day I didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't move. I sat in that same spot, the phone still in my hand, staring at her last message like it was carved into stone. I'll come by after work. Don't do anything stupid. The words repeated over and over in my mind, reshaping themselves until they sounded less like concern and more like an order, less like she was worried about me and more like she was reminding me of my place in her world. All morning I paced the apartment back and forth, trying to decide what I would say, what I would demand, how I would confront her this time without letting her twist it into my fault. But the more I rehearsed, the weaker I felt, because deep down I already knew she would walk in with that same calm expression, that same cold tone, and within minutes I'd be on the defensive again, apologizing, doubting, unraveling. And yet I couldn't stop myself from waiting. I watched the clock. Every sound in the hallway made me flinch. Every slam of a neighbor's door made my stomach knot. And then, just as the sky began to darken, I heard the turn of the key. She hadn't even knocked. She still had her copy, of course, and she entered like she owned the place, like I was a guest. She set her bag down, took off her coat, looked at me sitting there and gave me a half smile that wasn't warm, wasn't kind. It was a smile of someone who knew she had the upper hand. So, she said casually, as if we were about to discuss groceries, "Do you feel calmer now?" That question hit me like a punch. Calmer? After what I saw, what I heard, calmer was impossible. I stood up, my voice already shaking. "I want the truth." She raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "The truth about what?" My fists clenched. "About him. About what's been happening. How long has this been going on? Tell me." She sighed, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "I told you it's not what you think. You blow everything out of proportion." And there was again the same phrase, the same poison she'd always used to dismantle me. My chest burned with rage. "I walked in on you. I saw the candle, the wine, the way you looked at him. Don't tell me I imagined it." She didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. She simply shrugged and said, "So, what if we were close? So, what if I need someone who understands me in ways you don't? You've been suffocating me for years," and she paused, her eyes softening in a way that made my stomach twist. "He makes me feel free." That word again. Free. Always freedom. As if I were the prison. I staggered back, my hands gripping the edge of the table, just to keep myself upright. "So I'm just, what? A cage you've been trying to escape from?" She looked at me with pity, real pity, and said quietly, "Yes, that's exactly what you are. My breath caught in my throat. My vision blurred. And before I could speak, she crossed the room, placed her hand lightly on my shoulder, and whispered, "But I don't want to lose you either." That contradiction shattered me more than any confession could have. I jerked away, staring at her like she was a stranger. "What the hell do you mean? You can't have both. You can't keep me here while you run to him." She tilted her head, calm, measured, terrifying. "Why not? You love me. You always will. You'll forgive me like you always do. You'll stay because you're afraid of being alone. And he gives me what you can't. Together, it works." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the walls down around us. The audacity, the cruelty, the way she said it like it was logical, like it was fair, like I should agree. But all that came out of my mouth was a broken laugh, low and bitter. "So I'm your safety net. That's what I am to you. Your backup plan." She didn't deny it. She didn't even blink. That silence was confirmation enough. The air in the room grew heavier, pressing down on me until I could hardly stand. My mind raced, replaying every moment of our years together, every sacrifice, every time I chose her over myself, and all of it led here to this moment, where she stood in front of me and admitted without shame that I was second place, the insurance policy in case her real love story didn't work out. I wanted to throw her out right then, to scream at her to leave, to burn every trace of her existence from my life. But I froze, because another part of me, the weaker part, the broken part, still wanted her smile, her touch, her presence, even if it was poisoned. That part of me begged, "Don't let her go. You can still fix this." And that inner war nearly killed me. She reached out again, placed her hand gently on my cheek this time, her voice almost soothing. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Just accept things the way they are. I promise you'll see it's better this way." And in that moment, I realized a terrifying truth. She didn't just want to keep me. She wanted to break me completely, to mold me into someone who accepted being less, someone who accepted being nothing more than her shadow. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind running circles I couldn't escape. Every word she had said replayed again and again, each one cutting deeper the longer I thought about it. "You're a cage. I don't want to lose you either. Just accept things the way they are." It was madness, absolute madness. And yet she said it with such calm certainty that part of me almost believed her. The next morning, I felt like a ghost. I wandered to the apartment, seeing her everywhere, her clothes in the closet, her mug on the shelf, her hair tie on the bathroom counter. Every small thing screamed of her presence, and I hated it, but I couldn't throw any of it away. It was like keeping wounds open on purpose, because even pain felt better than emptiness. My phone sat on the table, silent. I stared at it for hours, waiting, hoping, dreading. I wanted her to message me, to call me, to say anything that could anchor me again. And at the same time, I was terrified of what she might say. That's what she had reduced me to, a man who both craved and feared her words. By noon, it finally buzzed. "I'll stop by tonight. We need to talk again." Talk again. Like the last conversation hadn't destroyed me, like this was some routine check-in, as if she were scheduling an appointment. I felt my stomach twist, but I typed back just one word. "Okay," because what else could I do? The rest of the day stretched on endlessly. I couldn't work. I couldn't eat. Every sound outside made me jump. Every knock in the hallway made my pulse spike. I kept imagining her with him, laughing, drinking, touching, and the images consumed me. I tried to shake them out of my head, but they grew stronger. It felt like he was in the room with me, mocking me with that smug, calm face. By the time evening came, I was shaking. My hands, my voice, even my breath. And when the key turned in the door again, I felt like I was about to collapse. She walked in as if nothing was wrong. Cool, composed, even smiling faintly. She sat on the couch, crossed her legs, and said, "So, did you think about what I said?" I stared at her, my voice low and ragged. All I've done is think about it. She tilted her head, her eyes scanning me like she was studying a specimen under glass. And it's insane, I spat out. You can't ask me to accept being second. You can't keep me and him at the same time. That's not love, that's... She cut me off with a cold laugh. Love? You still think this is about love? No, this is about survival. Mine, and maybe yours too, if you're smart enough to stay. I froze. Survival. The word echoed in my head like thunder. She wasn't talking about emotions anymore. She was talking about control, about power. She wanted both worlds, and she truly believed she could make it work, as long as I stayed silent, obedient, broken. For the first time, I felt something inside me snap. I can't do this, I whispered. Not anymore. I can't keep living like this. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing, her voice dropping to a whisper that felt more like a threat than comfort. Yes, you can, because without me you're nothing, and you know it. The room spun, my chest tightened, and for the first time, I realized she might be right. Not because it was true, but because she had made me believe it. She had broken me down so far that the idea of life without her felt impossible. And that terrified me more than anything she could ever say. That night, after she left again, I sat in the dark until morning. I didn't move. I didn't sleep. I only thought of one thing. I had to make a choice. Stay and die slowly, piece by piece, or leave and risk destroying myself in the process. Either way, the end was coming. The following days blurred together, but inside me something had shifted. I was no longer just broken. I was furious, desperate, consumed by the need to end this one way or another. My body felt like it was running on fumes. Little sleep, no food, my nerves frayed to bone, but my mind kept spinning, building toward a single inevitable moment. The end. When she texted me again, I'm coming over tonight. We need to settle this. I knew this was it. The final confrontation. There wouldn't be another. The hours leading up to it felt endless. I walked circles around the apartment, rehearsing what I would say. Sometimes I imagined begging her one last time, pleading for her to choose me. Other times I imagined screaming, throwing her out, burning every trace of her existence from my life. But deep down, I knew I had no control. She would come, she would speak, and like always, she would twist the story until I was left bleeding in the dark. And then, as the evening light faded, the key turned in the lock. She stepped in like a queen returning to her throne. Calm, composed, dressed sharply, her hair perfectly in place, her eyes scanning me with that same detached confidence. She sat on the couch, crossed her legs, and said, So, let's stop pretending. You've had time to think. Tell me where you stand. My heart pounded, so loud I thought she could hear it. Where I stand. My voice cracked, low, shaking. I stand in ruins. I stand with nothing left, because you took everything from me. She rolled her eyes. Don't dramatize. You're alive. You're fine. You're just too emotional to see things clearly. Clearly? I snapped. I saw you with him. In our home. I heard you tell me I was a cage, that he made you feel free. And now you sit here acting like I'm crazy for not accepting it. Her lips curved into a cold smile. Because you are crazy. You could have had me still, if you weren't so stubborn. I gave you the chance. All you had to do was accept reality. But you keep fighting shadows. Something inside me cracked wide open. Reality? Reality is you betraying me, using me, keeping me on a leash while you run to him. Reality is me sitting alone every night waiting for scraps of your attention, while you give the best of yourself to someone else. Reality is you wanted me as your backup plan, your safety net, your insurance policy. She didn't deny it. She leaned forward, eyes locked on mine, and whispered, And why not? You'd stay, because you can't live without me. And then, the most terrifying thing happened. I realized she was right, or at least she believed she was right. She believed I was so broken, so weak, so addicted to her, that no matter what she did, I would never leave. I stared at her, my chest heaving, my vision blurring with tears I didn't want to show. And for the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as the woman I fell in love with. Not as the person I thought I was building a future with, but as a predator. Someone who would hollow me out piece by piece, who fed off my devotion, my weakness, my willingness to sacrifice myself for her comfort. She wasn't just careless. She was deliberate. She needed me broken so she could feel whole. And something inside me shifted. I wiped my face, straightened my back, and for the first time in years, I felt the faintest spark of strength. "You're wrong," I whispered. Her eyebrows rose. "Wrong." "Yes," I said louder now. "You think I can't live without you." But I already did. Every day for months, I was living without you while you were with him. I survived the lies, the silence, the nights alone. And if I survive that, I can survive life without you. Her smirk faltered. For the first time, I saw a crack in her armor. "You don't mean that," she said quickly. "You'll come back. You always do." But I shook my head. My hands were still trembling, but my voice grew steadier with every word. "Not this time. You wanted me broken. You wanted me second. You wanted me to accept being nothing. But I'd rather be alone than live as your shadow. I'd rather feel pain than let you kill what's left of me." Her face hardened. She stood, her voice sharp, cold. "If you walk away, you'll regret it. You'll come crawling back, begging. And when you do, I won't be here." I took a deep breath, the air burning in my lungs like fire, and I said the words that finally freed me. "Good, then stay gone." She glared at me for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether to strike, to scream, to beg. But in the end, she just grabbed her bag, slammed the door, and left. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, I thought I'd collapse, that the weight of it would crush me. But then I felt it. Something I hadn't felt in months. Air filling my lungs. Space in my chest. Freedom. It wasn't joy. It wasn't peace. Not yet, but it was the beginning. The first step out of the cage she had built around me. I looked around the apartment, at her things, her traces, her ghost, and for once, I didn't feel trapped. I felt like I had a choice. A painful, brutal, terrifying choice. But mine. And as I sat down, exhausted, broken, but somehow alive, one thought settled into my mind, steady and unshakable. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to hold on. It's to finally let go. In the end, I realized something I should have known from the start. Love is not supposed to feel like chains. It's not supposed to make you beg for attention, question your sanity, or accept less than you deserve. Love that demands you shrink to keep it alive isn't love at all. It's control, it's poison, it's a slow death. Walking away didn't erase the pain. It didn't fix me overnight. But it gave me the one thing she never wanted me to have. Myself. My voice. My strength. My freedom. And maybe that's a truth everyone needs to hear. Sometimes the real victory isn't winning someone back. It's walking away and proving to yourself that you were enough all along.